Good morning, Optavia community. Really excited and hope over the last couple days you've learned a lot. You see how we're one big family and we want to change the world. I want to spend a moment to start off talking about human transformational technology. You know, most of the world is just kind of lagging behind because technology is taking over. Everywhere we look, AI comes into your life. It's trying to tell us what to do. And so in this almost sleepwalking through life, the big companies and AI are going to tell us what to do unless we make a decision to do it for ourselves. So our main goal over time is to actually help people open up, become aware, and take back their lives. And so that's really important for us. And so our community focuses on that with our clients, with our coaches, with our leaders, and we're all about increasing our consciousness, especially now when change is inevitable and it's going to happen really rapidly. So one of the things that I love about what we do, we not only have built this technology, this human transformational technology, but we've also created a plan and a community. You'll have a coach. You'll have all the things you need. Now, one of the great things about that is you can go at your own pace. We're all kind of at different places in our lives. Some of us were well mentored when we were growing up. Some of us weren't. Some of us were in communities where we had lots of, basically, help. And sometimes we didn't. So one of the things we want to do today is really answer some of the basic questions that people have, because for so long, our biology has kept us from being successful. 10,000 years ago, basically, when you wanted to go eat, you foraged all day long. And everything was what we call energy sparse and nutrient dense. So we were designed to have 40 billion fat cells. I mean, that's a lot. And with that, we could store energy. So if we found a berry bush or something, we'd eat all the berries. If our clan took down a mastodon, we would eat it because we couldn't refrigerate it. So with that, we learned to store food. Now, fast forward 10,000 years later, today, everywhere you go, you know when you open your refrigerator, you're going to bag food. You're basically not needing to use a lot of energy to do it either. So what we want to do is we want to start learning what can we do to create new habits that allow us to take control of our life. So the first question I have, and I'm going to just answer these questions, they should be on your screen as well. I've been so stressed during the quarantine, and food is the only thing that seems to lower my stress. What can I do to overcome this emotional eating habit I have? Wow. That is a big one. So many people are dealing with that. Yesterday we talked about the COVID-15. There's actually a calculator that allows you to actually look and calculate how much weight you're going to do based on the things that you're doing. You know, on average, many people will gain weight. So one of the first things and things you heard about over the last couple of days, I created this algorithm and stop, challenge, and choose. Most of us, we start feeling stressed, we feel that anxiety, and so basically we have a tendency to start eating. And as this question comes out, basically we eat to satisfy. The problem with that, it only works while we're eating. So if we can stop, why am I feeling this way? Challenge that feeling, and then choose to do something different. So like, you know, one of the things I do if I'm stressed, I'll actually take some water. And I'll actually, if like I'm in a meeting, in a board meeting or something, and something's going on and I start to feel that emotion, I'll usually just stop, drink some water, and then what I'll do is think, okay, what do I want to have happen here? Same thing with emotional eating. So, a couple other suggestions. Stop watching so much TV, stop listening to all the media, because most of it is very hysteria-driven. They're looking for sensationalism. They're looking to get in your head and to have an impact. They want you to come to them because you feel that way. You start feeling that charge, that adrenaline charge, that worrying, that stress, which isn't good for you at all. So what I would say is we want to be informed, especially during this unsettled times. We want to know what the wrong and the right things are to do. And that's going to be updated. We're learning more about this virus. We're learning more about what it can do, what it can't do, how it travels, you know, as far as the distance, social distancing. But the reality is there's only so much that's changing day to day. So take a great source like the CDC or the WHO, the World Health Organization, find out what is the current recommendations, stick with those, make sure you do the same thing with your family, but don't sit there and constantly think about it, because if you put stuff into your brain will process it, and if you're used to emotional eating, then you don't want to do that. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay, let's go to the next question. I feel embarrassed because I'm a coach and I've gained 30 pounds of the 100 I lost. I feel weird telling others to do this program. I'm not perfect. What should I do? These are really good questions this morning. And what I would say to that, first of all, listen, you don't have to be perfect. You know, Nick talked about that yesterday morning. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be on the path. Success is not in a straight line. We actually have periods where we'll go forward and then we'll move back a little bit. And you've lost the weight in the beginning, that 100 pounds, and you did it because you were on program, you were moving forward with it, you stayed on it, you were in a restrictive period, and you weren't varying from that. You know, once you get all your weight off, then we have a tendency to go back to some of our old patterns. So one of the key things, and that's why I actually built the Habits Health Transformational System, was to put people in position so in little baby steps they could improve that. Now, the new system, you know, the first book came out 11 years ago with a little workbook. This time, rather than just give you knowledge, I've actually given you a system. If you use the app to track yourself daily, if you use the life book to write in every day, and if you use the book for reference, you can start learning the new habits. Now, one of the key parts about that is that it's going to take time. You're going to go at your own pace. But this time, as you're losing the weight, make sure you're staying to the system and you're journaling in the life book, and you will start in micro habits. You'll start to learn how to make those changes permanent. Because the 5-in-1, our plan is amazing for losing weight. But by itself, it's not the answer, right? It's one component. Remember, there's 4 components. So I would say most of the time, if you're gaining weight back, it's because of a couple things. You're probably not fully utilizing all 4 components. You know, Gina did a really good job yesterday talking about the community. The community is critical. When you're around people that are doing the same thing, it makes it a lot easier. Second is, make sure that you're using the Habits Health system. And the third is, make sure you're diving into your coach. Even though you're a coach now, you still have your coach. And it's really important to work with them. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay, next question. How can we convince our clients to utilize the Habits Health system? We've heard and tried to counter all the excuses. I don't have time, I don't like to journal, being the 2 big ones. Well, that's another great question. Remember, we are not about telling people. You know, as a physician, basically we would go up, one down. We would tell people what to do. We'd actually say, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. And people don't want to be controlled. So the reality is we want to open up the possibilities. And that's why the system has multiple components. It has the website, the habitshealth.com website. It has the app. It has the life book. And it has, obviously, the regular book, the reference source. With that, in little baby steps, just show your clients why it's important and let them get on the calls. And when they say they don't have time, I always ask questions. If someone says that to me, my answers are, do you want to get healthy? Because that's really the big question. Do you want to get healthy? And if the answer, and now more than ever, people want to get healthy. They understand the ramifications if they're not as healthy as they can be. So one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure we spend the time with them and awaken them why it's so important. If used just as the 5-in-1, it is like a diet. It doesn't give you the long-term surrounding things you need. So basically, the system itself is actually with the app. They can just start there. And it takes, you know, a few seconds to use the app. So that takes care of the excuse of time. The other thing is journaling. So if you really look at it, just have them write their name in it. I designed that specifically. I don't like to journal. I had never journaled before. But as I read the research and looked at how do I make this system effective, I realized that all the work shows that journaling, writing down, the digital way is convenient and it's a great thing. That's why we have an app. But when you journal, when you write, when you think about it, what ends up happening is you're writing things down and it starts to change how you think. The neuroplasticity of the brain. The brain is adaptable. Even in your 70s and 80s and 90s, we used to think it was just kids, and now we know people in their 90s can actually change their behaviors over time by repetition. So when I designed the life book, if you look at the beginning of it, all you want your clients doing in the beginning is just putting their name in the book. Just dialing in that this is your life book. It's not my life book. This is how we're going to move forward in your life. And it's designed specifically. They write their name. The first thing they do is they go through and they write their story. And everything is designed in the first few elements, basically through half of the elements, through about 13 elements, only little sentences. So they don't have to write it. It's not like journaling where you're taking a blank piece of paper and you're having to create from scratch. That's hard. and something that I now do now, but I didn't do before. I just thought I didn't have time to do it. But now I write. But in the beginning, you're just going to fill in blanks. There's like little blanks, because what we're doing is we're teaching the habit of journaling. And then your client starts doing it over time, towards the end, remember that it's designed to go through that life book in about 12 months. So it's not like, oh, I don't have time. They can go in little baby steps, 1 page a day, then starting to write. And towards the end, as they're learning and they're building that muscle, because, you know, just like we build our muscles in the gym, the mental gym does the same thing. And as we write towards the end, you'll be writing more. So it's really not that difficult. They have a perception that it's difficult. They have a perception that they don't like to journal. And that's okay. You can say that to them. You can say, hey, the guy that wrote it, Dr. A, he doesn't like to journal at all. But I can tell you now, I use my life book and I write in it because for a couple of reasons. One is you're starting to take ownership of your health and your well-being. You're actually writing down what's important. And in the beginning, which is kind of cool because people like to see this, they write down their story, and then they take the evaluation, the well-being evaluation. And it actually, it tells them, it scores them where they are and what their current story is doing. And then what's cool about it, you say, you know, once we've done this, we can evaluate, and your scores are, you know, in the middle or low in some areas. Then what we do is we say, okay, let's start building your new story. So what's happening is they're starting to take psychologically back their lives, not looking for what's happening in the outside, just like the last question on the emotional eating. If we let the world outside of us control us, we are going to be a mess. So what we want to do is gradually, through Stop, Challenge, and Choose, through the life book, through using and learning in the book, through you as their coach, through the community, getting on our Habits of Health calls on Wednesday night. All those things in little baby steps will start to attract them. And when people, I will tell you one thing, when people start to take ownership and in little baby steps start accomplishing these things, everything changes. And over time, they'll do it. So in the beginning, you just want to make it easy. Just like you do with your kids. If you need your kids to do something, you make it easier, you make it fun. So that's basically what I would say to that. Okay, next question. Okay, I haven't tried the Optavia plan yet, but I failed at so many diets. I'm actually been told that I'm weight loss resistant. Any advice for me? Sure. We know this, and just so you know, you're not abnormal. People think that they're the only one this has happened to. If you've been on many diets, what ends up happening is usually your body composition changes. So in other words, you actually start losing muscle because every time you go on a weight loss program, on most of them, you'll actually start to cannibalize your muscle. So part of that is because people don't eat enough, and then they don't eat frequent enough, and so they start to use their muscle as an energy source. The body has an incredible ability. It was designed for survival, but it can actually take muscle and turn it into glucose through a pretty cool process. It's called gluconeogenesis. And so what happens every time you go on a diet, then you become more resistant. So it's a real phenomena. So understand, and this is one of the most fundamental things we do at Optavia. It's called lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time. It's not, let's run to success and then we're done, right? It actually is about learning to change your habits so that over time, you now have a new set of behaviors that can last you the rest of your life. So with the diet, a diet is a restrictive period of time, and we talked about that yesterday, where we have macronutrient manipulation, low carb, low fat. There's now the ketogenic diet. There's there's fasting. There's all these different methodologies. But the problem is they're taking your normal life and they're actually making you do something very different. But you can't do it for the rest of your life. Fasting is great for the short term. It's nothing wrong with doing it, working obviously with your physician. But the reality is, over time, do you want to stop eating at 3 o'clock every day, or do you want to skip a day, or what are you going to do? It doesn't fit into our lifestyle. So what we do specifically at Optavia, we start. So my answer to you right away is that do it. Use the system. You haven't tried it yet, and go into it full out, the 4 components. So when you start on the program, we're going to do several things. One of the first habits we're teaching you is actually the habit of eating every 3 hours. And you may think, whoa, if I eat every 3 hours, aren't I going to gain weight? No, Because specifically, we're using aliquots. We're using small amounts of energy dispersed over the day. When I was talking about 10,000 years ago, that's how we always ate. We grazed. We ate all day long. We didn't eat specifically at one time. We basically would eat when we had food. And so we were grazers. We were nomadic and grazed. So what we do is we teach you that habit, and then we teach you to eat smaller meals. So that's the first thing. The second thing is because of our products, our fuelings, they're low glycemic, which means they're not going to stimulate your insulin, which makes you hungry. Two is you're going to get protein, a great source of protein all day long, every 3 hours, and that part's good. This will be different than probably what you've done before. And then the third thing you're going to do is you're basically going to eat a lean and green meal, so you continue to have regular food, but over time, you're going to start learning this new habit. And as you do that and you drink lots of water, because 30% of the time when we think we're hungry, we're actually thirsty. So we're going to teach you now to program these things. Most people don't drink anywhere near enough water. You can see I've got 3 bottles of it here, and I drank one on the way here this morning. So it's important to learn these little habits because we forget. We get busy in our day. Remember, machines are kind of trying to tell us what to do all day long, and none of those machines are telling you to eat healthy, to eat every 3 hours, to drink your water, to basically control your mind so that you're in charge, and that's what we do. So we're going to teach you these things. So we're addressing your mind the same time we are your body. And then the other part, which is really cool, you're going to get the psychological support of having a coach. You're going to have a community to be part of, the fuelings, and the habit cell system in little bitty steps to move at your own pace. You know, and I'm going to spend a moment here. Hopefully someone will ask this question, but that's what micro habits are about. Micro habits are literally about putting yourself in position so you can do it every day. So I'll take a great example. So last year, I had a lady that she was 75 years old, and she needed to lose about 100 pounds, and she lost her weight. And we started on a program using the app, so she basically started making more steps. So she was walking more, but she wasn't really working much on her muscle mass, right? And as we get older, we have this thing called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia means we start to lose our muscle, and that's why we get, you know, the flab, you know, and the ladies always talk about it underneath here. They wiggle it, you know, and kid around about it. But that flab is sarcopenia. It's that your muscle has now been replaced with fat. So when you're older, everybody gets some of it as you get older. So to change that habit, if I told her go out and go to the gym, she's not going to do that. She just never has done that. So I asked her, and again, going back, motivation is key. I asked her, you know, what would you like to do? And she said, man, I would love to be able to lift up my grandson. You know, it was like 3 or 4. And I said, okay, so what can you do to work on your upper body so you have more strength? And she goes, okay, I'll do push-ups. And I said, really? I said, how many push-ups can you do? And she goes, oh, I can do probably 5 or so. And I said, okay, and I'm doing this on a Zoom because what's neat about our coaching, it's mostly virtual. So she's on a Zoom, and I said, okay, get down. Her name's Sally. I said, get down and do a push-up. And I could hear her. I could hear the, oh. She goes, Dr. A, I can't quite do one. I said, okay, can you stand up and go to your wall? And she says, yeah. And I said, go to your wall and push off your wall. And she goes, I can do that. And so she pushed off a wall, and I said, well, how many of those can you do a day? And she goes, well, I can do like maybe 10, 15, 20. And I said, really? I said, what about if we just have you do 1 a day? She says, I can do that. And I said, okay. So in the morning you get up, you know, you go and relieve yourself, and then I want you to go against the wall in the bathroom after you wash your hands and push off the wall. She goes, okay. And I said, use the cue of going to the bathroom. So remember, when we're building habits, it's about cue, routine, and reward, right? It's about those 3 pieces. So the cue was she would get up in the morning, go to the bathroom, and then go against the wall. And she'd go against the wall. And I said, on the days, Sally, when you feel good, do more. Do as many as you want. And so on average, she started doing and maybe did 5 or 10 a day. And about halfway through, about a month and a half, remember, it takes 66 days on average, 3 months basically, or 2 months, a little over 2 months, to ingrain the habit. I said, let's go on to your desk. And I said, go to the side of your desk and let's lean off your desk, right? So in other words, rather than pushing against the wall, she's now on an angle. So she's now pushing off some of her weight. We did that for another month or so. And then basically she really graduated to regular push-ups. Now, she's doing on average about 5 to 10 a day, which is pretty good for a 75-year-old lady. The best part about it is, why was she doing that? the consequence she wanted to create, the result she wanted, was to be able to lift her kids, or grandkids. So I asked her, and she said, yeah, not like one, but I can lift both of them. So that's how we build in micro habits, new habits. Because again, there's some days when you feel great, like, let's just say this weekend, you saw all the stuff going on and you got really motivated. You said, you know what, I'm gonna buy the Optavia program. I'm going to get healthy. I've decided between what's going on with the crisis in the pandemic and gaining the weight, I'm going to go after this. Great. That's your intention, and that's awesome. And we're going to write that down. We're going to write down in your app why you want to do it. I have it in my app. Because I want to be here for a long term, be able to play with my kids. I want to be able to go skiing with them. I want to be able to go travel and do great things. I want to take them sailing with their friends. So to do that and continue to be able to do that, that's every day. I see that every day on the start of my Habits of Health app. And so that's my overall motivation. But there's some days when I just don't feel like it. So what we do is we break it down so it's small enough, and a micro habit basically is a concept that I created, which means that even on the days when you have low motivation, you can do it. In other words, it doesn't take a lot of effort. Just like Sally on the wall, doesn't take a lot of effort. But when you get into motion, you're actually doing it, then you can do it. And the key part is what we call consistency. It's being able to consistently do it every day. And in the app, I actually have it where every day you do it and you check it off, and you get a streak going. And this work actually came from Seinfeld. Seinfeld, when he was growing up, was actually really bad. He was great at writing jokes, but he wasn't very good in person. In fact, he failed. I think they booed him off the stage the first time. So what he did is he made a decision that every day he would write a joke. And he got a streak, and he would build the streak over days, and eventually he became, obviously, extremely famous and one of the funniest comedians of all time. But same thing here. We're in little baby steps. We're going to build consistency, which over time ingrains a new habit. Remember, going back to neuroplasticity, our brain can be reprogrammed. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what your story is, none of that matters. We can change the way our brain fires, and what fires together, wires together. So it's really, really important. So hopefully that was helpful. So good luck on it, give it a shot. This is not a diet. It's a comprehensive approach to help you take control of your health, your mind, and the ability to flourish at a time when most people can't. Okay, what other questions do we have? As a physician, how would you respond to health professionals who are plant-based and feel is against their values to offer feelings to their patients? Well, first of all, let me say something. Plant-based diet is great. We want to protect ourselves individually and collectively our planet by eating more plant-based foods. There's no question about it. So I have no problem with them recommending using a plant-based diet. Most people can't do it on their own. It's too hard. We talk about overcoming the logistical and the psychological barriers of being able to live in society and overcome those things. So what we've done is, with our feelings, is make it goof-proof. Now, throughout the Habits Health system, our goal is to have you eventually mostly whole food and basically use the feelings basically when you don't have access to whole food. So we use it because it's goof-proof, because most people have not spent the time, or, I heard the question earlier, but I don't have time to do it. Well, our feelings on average take about a minute max to prepare. Some of them, like the bars, you just open the wrapper. So right away, we're overcoming the logistical parts of people not having a lot of time. That's really important. So as you start losing weight, the feelings create the teachable moment, so you can actually start to feel better. After a couple weeks and you're starting to lose weight and you're feeling better, you're going to go, wow, I can do this. And the cool thing is, you're in that moment, that psychological moment where you're starting to build self-efficacy. And what I mean by that, you're starting to have confidence. This is working. This is really working for me. And you start to have the skill because you've used the app and you're now eating reliably. And I use it every day. I actually use it when I'm running around and doing things or lecturing or on the phone talking to coaches or clients or patients, any of those times, it reminds me, it comes on, the app says, oh, time to have a fueling. So it helps you. And most of the time now, it's just like robotics, because I've been doing it for almost 20 years. So I pretty much do it, and I got it ingrained. But I forget sometimes, because I'm just so busy and distracted, and it's really easy to get distracted in the world we live in. So the app goes off, and then I eat my meal. So what's great about it, it allows you to get in position, build the habit of eating every 3 hours, and you have something that's really easy to do. As you get better and you're motivated and you're starting to read and you're going through your life book, you're going to learn all the things necessary. I've actually created a system. It's got a plate system, and we pioneered this work. 11 years ago when the book came out, the USDA was a food pyramid, which never worked. We created a plate system. Actually, 4 years later, the food pyramid was taken off, and they brought in the plate system. They call it My Plate. And actually, in the latest version of the transformational system, I actually modified a couple little things. So you can use the My Plate system, or you can use Dr. A's Habits of Healthy Eating. It doesn't matter, because I'm not interested in having ownership. I want you to get healthy. And so by doing that, we'll allow you to now learn over time. And as you reach your healthy weight, you're going to transition. We start off on day one. When you're starting to use the fuelings, you're having 5 fuelings, but you're also having 1 healthy lean and green. So now in baby steps, again, micro habits, we're teaching you to go to the grocery store, and it's right on the app. It tells you what you need to get. And then you go to the grocery store and you get a lean piece of poultry or fish or lean meat, or you can use tofu. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a vegan. And you basically get healthy vegetables, and then you learn portion control. You know how much to eat. So you're learning 3 things. The fuelings teach you, number 1, portion control, because on average they're 100 calories. 2, you're learning to eat low glycemic. What that does, it turns off our insulin. Almost 85 million Americans have insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and can cause heart attacks and strokes and things. So we want to turn off insulin. Insulin is the key hormone modulator in our body. When it's high, which it is in 80 million people in the United States, when it's high, it basically causes fat storage. It turns on the spigots, so your cells, your adipose cells, fill full of fat, and it's very difficult to lose weight. We specifically use the fuelings because they're 100 calories, they're low glycemic, they give you a balanced protein and carbohydrate, complex carbohydrate, and they have 24 vitamins and minerals in them. So they give you everything you need, so you don't have to think about it, especially in the beginning. And as you lose weight, you're learning how to eat healthier for your lean and green. And over time, we're going to teach you to basically eat whole foods and eat them in smaller amounts. And then if you're plant-based, great, you can do that. And we have the methodology, and we show you how to do that. But for most people, to take them from their current lifestyle, which is full of refined sugars, ultra-processed food, they eat food that comes out of a box that's ultra-processed, and their insulin levels are high. To ask them to go cold turkey to a plant-based diet is very, very difficult. So our goal is to get you to that point over time, but in the beginning, we want to create success. The key thing to the Habits Health Transformational System is to build your confidence in yourself and give you the tools. Remember, human transformational technology is about the science, which is all throughout the system, and it's about the knowledge, which is really important, and useful, effective tools. That's the definition of technology. We just don't need machines. Now, we use the app, and so we use machines where they can help you. The app is a great reminder, so during the day, it helps you remember. But the other pieces are you taking back control with the technology of the Habits Health Transformational System, with your coach, who's also a human, fellow human, who's probably been on the journey with you, and be part of a community, which is a bunch of us. We're all part of the community. You know, like last night, the leaders went out. We went out and had a wonderful dinner, and I ate a very appropriate meal, even though we were having fun and being together and socializing, you know, keeping our distance, obviously. But basically, it was easy. In fact, the restaurant even had the partitions up so that we could eat, you know, together and keep our separation. So it's important more than ever to wake up, basically, show up and grow up, right? It's important for us to take control. And I will tell you, while we're on this, the reality is very, very clear. The medical establishment, the governments, all those things cannot do what's most important for you, your family, and your community. It's important that we take back responsibility. The Habits Health Transformational System is all about taking back your effectiveness, becoming responsible. You know, Jared was talking about the locus of control, and that's a psychological term, which means if you think the world is happening to you and you don't have any control over it, then you're going to be a victim to that world. We, over time, are going to help you understand you are in charge of your life, and once you organize your life around what matters and you lead from that place, you know, the future you want is to be healthy, to be in great shape, to be able to be there for your family and live. You know, my girls are 23 and 20, and I want to be here for a long time. You know, I heli ski, and I can do that because I pay attention to the things that are important. And a moment, like the emotional leader, a moment of satisfaction. And by the way, not to digress, but that's called pleasure. So why do people take a big thing of like ice cream and sit at night and watch TV? And why do they eat the whole thing? Because the only time you're really getting satisfaction is when you have it in your mouth. As soon as that flavor is gone, then you need more. So we eat more. What we're doing is helping you start to organize your life around what matters. It's not being on more medicines, not being unhealthy. It's about taking full command of your health and your well-being. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay, so plant-based diet is good. That's my summary. And we're not telling you that the feelings are the only thing you're going to do for the rest of your life. It is a human transformational technology. It's something we have that helps you start on the journey, because remember, journey of a lifetime starts with one step, and that's how the life book will help you with that as well. Okay. My coach asked me to think about coaching, but I feel like I don't know enough yet. I'm not even close to my goal weight either. Is there somewhere I can study so I can feel like a person who can help someone else? Okay. This is a great question, and I can understand if you've never coached before and you have weight to lose, you're looking at yourself, okay? And certainly, the system is set up for you to be able to teach yourself how to be healthy. The reality is, and this is what we've been saying, we've been doing this for 20 years, and we have great examples. You got to see Shirley Mast. Shirley Mast needed to lose 215 pounds. But she started coaching, and by coaching and helping others, it helped her on her own journey. And remember, you only have to be one step ahead. And what's really great as a coach is now we have the Habits Health Transformational System, which is now focused on being client-driven or patient-driven, and the coach is there to support, to guide. And if you look at it, there is a matching coaching guide that goes along with the life book. And what's cool about it is as you're going through your life book as a client, there's 3 questions at the end of each element. And those 3 questions are the identical questions that the coach is going to ask you. So you're actually learning to coach yourself while your coach is coaching you. So you don't, and by the way, you losing weight, you're, you know, and this is a bad thing, but there's physicians until recently, you know, some of them were, well, even now, are overweight, right? Or they used to smoke cigarettes. In fact, there were old commercials of doctors smoking and saying, yeah, I use this one because it's the best. The reality is that doctor could help people that were sick get less sick, right, even if he wasn't in great shape. The same thing applies here. Now, we want you over time, and I know this. I know if you become a coach, because it becomes a part of you now reaching out and helping others. And when we learn to help others, it helps us a lot. So you don't need to be at a healthy weight, number one. You don't have to know everything. The system teaches, and while you're learning, you can help others. And remember, you have a coach, and as you become a coach, you have a business coach that's there to help support you. So, you know what? You don't need to go read or study to do something. Everything you need is part of what you're learning as a client. And then, so you're learning to take people to the community, to be on the Habits of Health calls, to join us virtually, to basically be at things like this, you know, virtually now, which are all safe. You'll look at the guide, and the life book match each other, and it makes it really easy. And as you do this, you'll become healthier. You don't have to wait. Shirley became, along with her husband, she got to bring her husband home, and together they built incredible. They've helped thousands of clients get healthy. And basically, it took her, you know, a year or so, I think it was over a year or so for her to lose. And by the way, going back to the other question, she varied a little bit. You know, her weight went up a little bit, because you have to learn all the things over time. And one of the areas for her, she started meditating. Now, when I first started working with her, she had no desire to meditate. She was anti-meditation. And we waited quite a while. It was one of the last things we added, and now it helps her tremendously. Reduce the stress, and combined with all the pieces and everything she's learned, including changing her environment. You know, the 6th macro habit is changing your surroundings. She was able to help her husband come home, and now together they have that community they've created together, which helps her stay on track. So you don't need to know everything, you just need to make the decision, raise your hand, and come join us. We'd love to have you. Okay, what are the other questions? What do you like to do when you're not working? Boy, that may take the rest of our time. I like to do all kinds of stuff. My hobbies, the things I love the most, I love to sail. I learned to sail when I was in Miami in my fellowship in critical care, and started sailing, and started little, and now I've sailed, you know, to the Bermudas. I've sailed 1,500 miles in the ocean several times in my boat. And I love it. I love to sail. I love being out. Last weekend, the girls took some friends, and we all went out. You know, because obviously we're not. We live in Annapolis, you know, now, and basically we went out on the Chesapeake and had an incredible day. There was the breeze was like 15 knots, and we're sailing with no motors, and just all these really cool 20-year-old-ish girls and another friend of mine, and we just enjoyed it. I love the passion of being connected to nature. So that's one thing. The other thing I love is I love to ski. I love to snow ski. And I wasn't very good, and this is a really good example. So, you know, in my, as a physician, as I was growing up in medical school, residencies and stuff, I went to medical school in Kansas City, and I get to go out and go skiing maybe one time a year. So I never got very good, and I went right from college to medical school to internships to 2 fellowships, you know, and residencies. And during that time, I had no time to go out, so I never got very good. And so, you know, I'd go out and I'd always be in awe when we were on the ski lift and see these people doing the bumps and running down and just knocking it, really shredding the slopes. And I thought, God, I wish I could ski like that. And I couldn't. And you know, sometimes I regretted that from college, why didn't I take a year off and become a ski bum? In reality, it was probably a good idea, because when you become a ski bum, then you love it so much, you end up working at restaurants and stuff because you don't want to leave it because it's so much fun. So about 8 years ago, I met a ski instructor through a friend of mine, and he goes, I said, can you get me to ski like that? And he said, absolutely. He says, I've never met anybody that's more interested, more open, more curious, and wants to learn. You know, because I'm coachable, and being coachable is important. So we started working, and it took me 4 or 5 years before I could do it. But he said, you're ready. And we went up and we went heli skiing up in the Selkirks up in British Columbia. So I love that too. So anyway, enough about me. What's next? I have a saboteur. Okay. She consistently tells me I'm losing too much weight, and I'm baking me tempting, unhealthy things. I tell her I'm getting healthy, but it doesn't stop. How do I handle this with love? Okay, that's a great question. And actually, what I did in the latest version of the transformational system is the first 5 to 6 elements are all about those kind of things. Remember, you need to take back control. You've made a decision. You're on purpose to do this, which I congratulate you for. You need to actually, and what's great is go into the Habits Health system, into your life book, and it'll actually talk about that. I love the saboteur. You know, we have a accomplices and we have friends, right? Our friends are actually there to support us. Our accomplices want to pull us back. It's kind of like the crabs in the pot. The one wants to get out of the pot, and basically the others want to pull them back in. So what you can do is, number one, is read through in the Habit Cell system the element on surroundings. It'll really help you because it kind of goes through that thought process. The second thing is work with your coach. And then you know what you say to this person and handle it with love is just say this. Listen, I understand right now that you're not ready to make change. I am, and if you really care about me, I would love for you to support me, or if you're not ready to support me because you don't believe in what I'm doing or you just aren't interested in it right now, will you at least be neutral to me? Because if you care about me, don't you want me to get healthier? Don't you want me to be more? And put it in that way. Most people, even if they're saboteurs, will realize, like, well, if I really like you or care about you, I'm not going to do something that would be wrong to you. So make sure you go into your life book and read through, because there's a lot of great information on that. Okay. Next question. I've loved this weekend. Thank you. I feel so strong right now, but I know myself, and I'll be at a family event or in a situation with bad foods and end up caving. What do I need to have more willpower? Okay. Unbelievable question. This is such an important question. First of all, willpower doesn't work long term. Willpower is a very, very fickle friend. Willpower is something that they actually did studies, and they looked, and they had college kids, just to show you how weak willpower is. Basically, they had college kids that were in a study. They didn't know what the study was actually about. And they had them do, they had one group they just basically took into the lunchroom. The other group, they had to do a simple mathematical equation. I mean, not a hard one, like, like addition and subtraction. And they had like a five-minute session with them, and they had to do some work like that. They then took both groups into the lunchroom, and they had the opportunity, they had a buffet. They had chocolate chip cookies and, all, by the way, I have to tell you, that chocolate chip cookies was my downfall, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So they take chocolate chip cookies, they had fruit, they had beautiful, healthy things on one side, and they had unhealthy things. If they were asked to do that mathematical question, not a hard thing, it wasn't like calculus, it was just a simple addition or something, they actually were 5 times more likely to eat something unhealthy than healthy. So it's very, very, very easily depleted. So we can't rely on willpower. What we can rely on are habits. So what a great example is when you're going, and I tell this for people around the holidays, right? You're going to go to an event, and it's socialization, man. You are about, at Thanksgiving, we get together, and we're thankful, and we have all kinds of stuff, the best pumpkin pie with whipped cream. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that. But it's okay occasionally in something like that if you take a couple bites. So a great thing to do before you go to those situations is make sure you have your feelings with you. And this is another reason why feelings are important. We don't just use them for weight loss. They're used as high-quality, portable fast food that you can take when you need it. On the planes, I don't eat any of this stuff, especially not right now, but even before. All the stuff they give is full of high fructose corn syrup. It's all ultra-processed, whatever it is. I'm not going to mention any brands, but basically I say no thank you, and I'll take one of my bars and have some water with it. So by taking one of the fuelings, or maybe even 2, and taking them before you go to this kind of event, then you're not hungry. Because what's great about our feelings, because of the balanced protein and low glycemic, and so you're not hungry, so you feel full. And then have a couple, if you feel like it, choose the things that are healthy. They usually have salads and stuff, and they have some greens things. Choose those, and if you really love the taste and you want to taste of something, like that special dressing, take a small spoonful and just taste it. 95% of your taste satisfaction comes in the first 3 bites. After that, it's just eating it out of routine and that pleasure thing. So that's a great way to start, and talk to your coach, and they'll have some great suggestions for you as well. Okay. Next question. How should I handle a plateau in weight loss? I've lost 70 pounds. The past 2 weeks, I've been battling the same 3 points. Okay. So that's not unusual. As we lose weight, our metabolic rate does drop some because you're losing mass. Your fat cells don't consume anywhere near the amount of energy as your muscle cells. So one of the things we're doing is that's why we start the habits of healthy motion. We start with very simple things like just walking, and then we add a more rigorous, basically non-exercise activity. We get you up moving more so you're not sitting all day long, and all those things kind of counter that. So the first question I would ask you, if you're plateaued, are you working now, since you've lost quite a bit, you've lost 70 pounds, are you now adding activity? And add non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and what that means is things that you can do more of. I obviously write a lot, and I'm on calls, and so I have on my phone, every hour it alerts me so that I get up and do something. So I'll get up and spend 5-10 minutes. So that kind of combats that. We have a tendency, because of technology, to be very sedentary. And so it's really important as you lose that weight to get up and start moving more. And it starts simply by just walking, you know, or you can walk up and down stairs if you feel like it. Obviously, anytime you start any kind of increasing activity, if you want to check with your physician. But beyond that, we can start adding more. The other thing that we do, if we're plateaued, is what I have people do occasionally is I'll have them use something simple like the shakes. So go and use like 5 shakes for like maybe a week along with your lean and green. And what happens is sometimes, because the shakes have a really low glycemic index, it's just enough to get you back into the fat burning state. So hopefully that was helpful. And then again, work with your coach to basically other suggestions. And also we have nutritional support that has great guidelines when you reach a plateau. All right. How do we motivate clients who have been on program for a while, lost their weight, and can't find a strong why? That's another good question. By the way, the difference between the first version of the Habits of Health and now the transformational system is that I've really shifted my knowledge, coming from a physician, really understanding the human body, but really not understanding how important the mind was. The new system is shifted way over to the other side. So what's really important about that is our mind controls everything. And in baby steps, we can change that, again, the neuroplasticity. So the why is really motivation. So what's the motivation? So as a coach, what's really important is to know your clients. And you know, everybody, and one of the things we've been teaching our leaders is everybody's on their own planet. And everybody kind of looks at life differently. So if someone is stalled and they're not able to go back on it because they don't have a strong why, we need to awaken that. We need to ask questions. And everybody, if you really spend the time, so usually what it means when they say they don't have a strong why, it means that they've lost direction. They've lost because they probably didn't do all 4 components. They didn't ingrain new habits. They were relying on the 5 and 1. Which by itself is just one component. You need all 4 components. So what's really great about that is a coach working with your client, you can actually spend some time and start to explore what life's like on their planet and find out. It could be that they feel they can't do it. It could be that they have, a saboteur like the other person asked, someone that's holding them back. They could be that they've just kind of lost and they're at a place where they just kind of lost direction. But if you ask them, you know, about their kids, ask them about the things that are important, just spending the time and find out what lights them up. You know, so when you're asking questions, that's our role as coaches. It's not to tell people anything. It's to ask them questions to find out, you know, what's important to you? You know, what do you like? And I can tell you that if you really come at it from that and finding what's life like on their planet, over time, you'll find something, and you'll just see the difference. Their face will light up, you know, and it really can make the difference. You know, going back, I'm a movie nut, and Gladiator is one of my favorite movies. And there's a place where Marcus Aurelius, after the battle, is talking to Maximus, and, you know, he's very weary from battle, and Caesar asks Maximus, he says, what's like with your family? Because that's what Maximus wants to do. He wants to go home to his family. And so Caesar asked him, and immediately he just lights up. He starts talking about the smell, you know, of the jasmine, and just you could just see it happen. Well, the same thing with your clients. We just need to spend time, not be impatient, not tell them, but share and care, and have them answer questions that are important to them. What's important to them, you know, and it's all basic stuff. It's that, you know, we don't feel well. It could be a physical thing. It could be I want to be here for my family. It could be a bunch. I want to go travel. You know, all those things. You know, I have to tell you that I'm going back to Shirley Mask because I personally coach her, and she's got such an amazing story. By the way, less than 1% of people that lose over 100 pounds keep their weight off. So that's evidence that our program really works. And I remember the first time she was still in the weight loss journey, to answer the other person's question. So she was nowhere near her healthy weight yet, but she was on her way. And she said that basically that was the first time she had flown. She was coming to one of our events, and that was the first time she was sitting next to me along with her husband, Cliff. And it was just incredible. She said, you know, I never flew because I was so worried if I had to go to the bathroom, I wouldn't fit in the lavatory. And all of a sudden you start thinking, wow. And you start to understand we all have our reasons why we may not be doing as well. And what we need and what we do as coaches, we're empathetic and we're compassionate. We find out how we can help them. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, what else we got? What would you tell someone that is terrified to transition due to fear of failing like they have previously on many other attempts to become healthy? Okay, well, I would say this. I would say that the key part is for them to actually start in the micro habits, right? Making sure they're in their life book, making sure they're using their app, make sure they're starting to read and learn that if they're learning to eat every 3 hours, if they're learning to move more, if they're learning to basically drink their 8-ounce glasses of water a day, they're putting themselves in position to be successful. And the whole idea is that transition can go at a pace that works for them. So what transition means, for those of you that don't know, is we go from being on the program, like the 5 and 1 is our basic, we have alternates to that, obviously for different conditions, and you'll work with your coach to find out which one is right for you. But while you're on the program, you're specifically having 5 fuelings and a lean and green. So it's easy because you just keep doing the same thing. But remember what our goal is, going back to the plant-based question. Our goal is over time to equip you that you're bulletproof. So you can go anywhere at any time and be successful. So in that transition, the whole idea is you're going to continue to eat every 3 hours. You're just simply going to start to replace and add foods that you weren't eating before, and you'll go at a pace where you'll watch, what happens. Now, in transition, you're going to gain, 3 or 4 pounds, and that's okay. That's reequilibration, glycogen coming back, and a bunch of physiologic mechanisms as you're adding more food. But that 3 or 4 pounds will then settle down, and then you'll become baseline. And by monitoring, one of the key things we want to do is every week, and what I tell people, take a pair of jeans, that fit well when you reach your healthy weight, and every week try them on, because it's a really good indicator. And if you have to get on the bed and go like this to get them on, probably means you need to be more vigilant. You've added something that is helping you gain some weight. So it's about monitoring. It's about going at a pace that works, and we have a transition period that works, and we can always adjust because you've learned the habit of eating every 3 hours, and you can rely on the fuelings for part of that, and then eventually. So, I'm the oldest coach, as far as the longest on the program, because, I started it back in 2001, and I use the fuelings every day, but I eat mostly healthy. And what's cool about it is because I know to eat every 3 hours, it allows me to stay within the same weight range, even in times when I'm traveling or times when I'm going out to restaurants more than eating in, because I know to eat every 3 hours. So when I go out to eat, I don't have this voracious appetite where I want to eat everything in sight. And again, going back to the taste, if there's certain things you're adding that are not that healthy. By the way, I just want to say one thing. Ultra-processed food, stuff that's white, the white sugars, white grains that are all been, refined, those things are really dangerous for most people because we're susceptible to that. They're refining it down, and it raises our blood sugar, and it affects the nucleus accumbens in our brain, and we can get addicted to that. So one of the elements, we actually look at that. And there's 3 levels of susceptibility. There's people that are highly susceptible, medium susceptibility, and low susceptibility. If you are in the range, and you do a series of questions, if you're in the range where you're highly susceptible, you probably should not go back and eat ultra-processed food. It's kind of like, someone that is addicted to alcohol, is an alcoholic. They can never eat they can never drink alcohol again. If they do, they immediately have a relapse. So for those people that are high susceptibility, we added that because now we understand. You don't want to eat that food anyway. That food increases inflammation, it makes you feel bad. I was talking to one of the people on the set, and basically when they do that, their knees start hurting. They feel it, you feel it. And once you've gotten healthy, and this is really important, why you shouldn't be scared, you are at a place now, by using the feelings and the lean and green, you're at a place now where your body is fully sensitized to things that are good for it and bad for it. And if you eat something that's bad for you, you won't feel good. And so you can use those as the lessons, you can work within the system, you're building habits so that basically it becomes routines, you don't have to think about it, and you're working with your coach to adjust those things. So during transition, you put yourself in position to be successful. So, work with your coach, Don't be worried about it. Just do the right things. Do that susceptibility test to make sure. And if you're highly susceptible, then you don't want to eat ultra-processed food again. So that'll help you. Okay. All right. What else we got? Who is the biggest influence in your life and why? Wow. I'd probably say my grandfather. My grandfather was a policeman in New York City, and he taught me at a very early age to do the right thing, to be intellectually honest, to not think you're better than anybody else, and so it's probably my grandfather. And beyond that, I've had a couple mentors. My mentor in critical care, Joseph Savetta, who was the chief of the University of Miami's program there at Jackson Memorial, is a huge trauma center, and he taught me also to not editorialize. In other words, to stay with the truth. Make sure everything you do is factual, based on facts, and not bringing meaning to things beyond what they are. So I'll just tell you a quick story. My first night as a fellow in the ICU, it was actually a Friday night, and I had a date, and I was getting ready to go out. Before I was married, and I was getting ready to go out at 9 o'clock. I got off duty, so we get on the phone. Back then we did it by phone, and the other fellow was coming on, so I was telling about the cases. I was on about 3 minutes, and he goes, Wayne, I want you to call me back when you can talk things factually. And I said, what? I thought I was pretty good. I was a cocky young physician. So we got on the phone, and we were on the phone for 3 hours. In fact, my date was, I never got a chance to actually go out with her again because she was so upset because I couldn't call her or text her because there were no texts, there was no cell phones back then. But during that, he started teaching me to be factual, to look at the facts, not to editorialize, not to make stuff up when you didn't know it. And that was really powerful, and that's carried me on. And by the way, he was one of the biggest decision makers in helping me decide that even though I was a critical care physician and helped pioneer that specialty, I started realizing that I was putting band-aids. I was reacting to disease. I wasn't helping I never helped in those 20 years anybody get healthy. I kept them from dying, but I never really helped anybody get healthy. And I also realized that, I married and I had young kids and I wasn't going to get a chance to see them. And then I realized, I want to go out and help people take control of their health and their life, stop the undue suffering. And so now, in this day and age we're in now, in the last 4 or 5 months, it has become so rewarding for me. And I look back to that early influence. First, my grandfather, do the right things, and number two, and be virtue-based. Basically, to do the right thing when you come in a room with the people, the right things to say. And the second part was, now helping ask the question every day for the last 20 years, how can I help people in a crazy time? It's always been a crazy time the last 20 years, but now even more. How do I help people take control of their health and their life and go back and become optimally healthy and develop well-being? So hopefully that was helpful. Okay. What can I do when I get overwhelmed? I'm working on my own health. I'm helping clients get healthy, have kids, and another job. Some days it all feels like so much. Wow, you got a lot going on. Well, the key part is to give yourself time. And one of the cool things about the chapter and also the element on basically healthy sleep as well as energy management is a great chapter to help you. And it's really about allocating your time so you have the opportunity to take back control. And taking back control is, we have a tendency, especially with all the stuff you have going on, is you're just reacting to your day. You're just trying to get through your day. So a great way to start this is to go to the chapter on energy management and look at the Habits of Health clock. So what we have is, if you look at the Optavia logo, it's 24 radians. So there's 24 hours in your day. How do we start to have a more optimal life? It's having more optimal days. How do we have more optimal days? We have more optimal hours. How do we have more optimal hours? We start planning ahead. Planning is everything. So I specifically would say this to you. Number one, you've got to get your sleep. We're at our strongest, both mentally and physically. We're able to handle ourselves, stay healthy when we get a great night's sleep. On average, we need 8 hours. So that 8 hours should be where you start, making sure that you're allowing that much time to get a great night's sleep. On both sides of that, to help you sleep better, there is first the twilight hour, right? It's the hour before you go to sleep, where we take away all the electronics, all the blue lights, the phone, computer, TVs. We actually spend that time modeling, so we're building a ritual. 10,000 years ago, you would sit by the campfire at night with your clan, eat, tell stories, and then, because it was dark, you'd go to sleep, right? And we slept on average 10 hours back then. 8 hours is kind of the sweet spot. Some people need a little less, some people a little more, but 8 hours. And then on the morning side of it, you have an hour that before you have your kids, your job, all this other stuff you have your clients to take care of, I call it the model morning. And in that morning, you should build a routine so that you're actually prepared for your day, you're on purpose, you know the things you need to get done that day, and then you look throughout the day and you chunk time so that you get enough to get it done. So if you have another job, you have to chunk that time. Your clients go into one-time thing, and obviously the kids right now, obviously it's more difficult because most of our kids are home. I've had my girls with me the last 4 months, and I have to set guidelines. I have to set basically borders, and stay within those guidelines so that I can get my work done. But the key part is to plan ahead. Kind of look at your day, look at the time elements, and maybe even break it down to all those ratings, each one, and then make sure you're allowing time to get things done. It's really more of control of your getting enough sleep. And then the other thing is in that element, as well as in the Habits of Health book, there's a whole bunch on active and passive napping and rest. And so there are things you can do that are active to actually create that energy, to keep your energy level up. And then there's also some passive things you can do as well. So really spend some time on that and start writing that part down and starting to plan your day ahead before you're dealing with the kids, the dogs, and all the other things. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay. I constantly sabotage myself, especially when it looks like I'm going to succeed. Do you have any advice about stopping this habit? Yeah. Okay. That's a great question. One of my mentors and colleagues, and we've written a book together, but it's embedded. What he taught me about the creative process is embedded in everything that I do. He was another one of my mentors, but it is one of my mentors as well. And it's about having direction versus oscillation. So if we have two competing tendencies, one is that basically I want to be successful, and here is I'm not successful. And what happens is it's like having a stick man with two rubber bands, and this is success, and this is back to the old way. And it's kind of having like these two rubber bands. And as we're moving, exactly what you're saying, as you move closer to here, you have this part of you that is a competing structure that as you get closer to here, the rubber band stretches, and then you almost get here, and then it pulls you back. And that's because what we do is we have what we call conflict manipulation. We are emotionally, and this is, by the way, what's going on right now with the pandemic. So many people are out, you can't find exercise mats, you can't find dumbbells, because everybody's buying it because they are fear-driven. They're actually scared, and so it's motivated them to do something. And I talked about this yesterday, but the reality is, so right now they're doing it and they're working this direction. When the pandemic resolves or becomes endemic and settles down, and the fear is gone, people will go back to their old ways. Because what they're doing is they're doing something based on fear versus on what we call desired outcome, and it's called structural dynamics. It's in all my work. It's in all my work. And it is about the orientation. Remember, there's two orientations. Survival, contracted state where everything's happening to me and I'm just reacting to it in a survival mode. And then there's the creative state, expansive state. And in the expansive state, I've decided, leading from the future, what I want. What is the desired outcome I want? And you want to be successful in your health. So if you make that as your decision, then you're moving in that direction. And so as you get there, you will no longer have this feeling like, oh, I'm going to sabotage and go back. So hopefully that's helpful, and it's really important. And work with your coach. Go into the Habit Cell system and look at the chapters on that. We talk about the creative process. We talk about desired outcome, and basically put yourself in position to now lead from the future. So a great way, just in summary for everybody viewing this, is what do you want your future to look like? In other words, if we go through every day based on problem solving doesn't create anything. It just gets rid of something we don't want. But what we want is better health. We want better well-being. We want better relationships with our family. And so write down what it is you really want for your health, and then you know where you are, you know where you want to go, and then we call it the secondary choices. So I'll give you an example. So I talked about earlier my hobby of heli skiing. So I know this. I know that at my age, when I go heli skiing, it's mostly with 30-year-olds that are from Europe, they're from Austria, Switzerland, and they're really good skiers. I mean, they're in incredible shape, really good skiers. I know in my normal behavior, if I just went up and did that, I would be exhausted and I wouldn't be able to be very successful, and potentially I could actually get hurt. So I know that, especially when it gets to the 3 months, like it's starting in September, I know by the end of those 3 months, by the time it gets snowing up in the mountains, I want to be in good shape. So how do I do that? I put by my bed my tennis shoes, and every day that's my cue. Before I do anything, I put on those tennis shoes and I go down to, I have a small workout area in my house, and I go down there and I work out. And if I don't do that, then I won't be successful. So that's a secondary choice. And by the way, newsflash, I don't like to exercise. I'm going to do some hiking the next couple days. I love to do things. I love being with people. I love to be outdoors, to go on hikes, walk, play sports. Even things as stupid as cornhole, just doing this and going back and forth. I love to be active. I don't like to exercise. So for me, my primary choice, right, the desired outcome is to be able to heli ski in the winter. My secondary choice, right, what I have to do to support that is I have to exercise. So because it's more important that I ski, then I do this thing that I don't want to do because it helps me do what I want to do. So that's the thing you should do, since you're sabotaging yourself, is really start with what is the desired outcome? What do I want to create in my life? And then write down the things that support it. So that is leading from the future. What do I want my life to look like? And it counts for every area of our life. Our relationships, our success in what we do as a career. All those things are dependent on us having a clear vision of where we want to go, and then leading from the future, acting in the now. So what it means is, in the present moment, you don't do things that don't lead you there. So, if you look at it as this rubber band pulling you towards what you want, if you want this, you do the things here that move you toward, and you stop doing the things. It's as much saying no as it is doing the things that say yes, that move you on to that goal. So hopefully that'll be helpful. Get with your coach, dive into the habit cell transformational system, go into the areas where we talk about orientation, and I think you'll find it be very helpful for you. All right. How can a coach re-engage in the coaching business after a long hiatus? All right, that's a great question. Well, first of all, hopefully you watched the last couple days and you can sense and feel. We continue. Remember, we are a learning organization. Optavia Community is a learning organization. We basically learn every day, and we're learning a lot more. We have an incredible shared vision with our company, and I had an opportunity to sit with the CEO, Dan Chard, and also the president, Nick Johnson, and we had an incredible opportunity. As we come together, we're making it easier to coach, we're making it easy for our clients, and we're building in processes. We have, the Habit Cell Transformational System makes coaching so much easier. It makes it where you don't have to do it all yourself. We're putting the onus for your client to work on themselves, and you're there to help guide them. So that part's easier. Second is you have mentorships, and we have all kinds of tools. We're building incredible tools to help. And so what I would do, if you haven't been coaching in a while and you really got inspired, and hopefully that's why you're asking this now, is call up your coach and say, you know what? I really like what's going on in the company. I like what's going on in the field. I sense that this may be something I want to really do. And then sit down with them and do exactly what I just talked about a moment ago. Sit down and lead from the future. Why do you want to coach again? What's important to you? Because unfortunately, most of the time, we're in an unconscious state. We're just kind of going through our routines. And so I would get with your coach, sit down, and actually, even before you get with your coach, I would sit down today. Today'd be a great day because most people aren't working today. And I would actually write down, why do I want to coach again? And become really clear on that and ask those questions. The other thing you can do is go into element one. where it really goes into the why. And go through that exercise and then write down, and like I said, I have written in my app what's most important is being active for my girls, but I also have written down on a piece of paper my goals that I want and where I want to go, and I want to continue. My mission is to help with this incredible team of coaches. I want us to change the world. It's time. Human evolution is at a point now where we can actually help change this world. And we've had this wake-up call from nature, and it's really pretty significant. We don't change our ways, we're gonna find we might go the way of the dinosaurs. I mean, it's literally that significant, because the things that are happening right now are things we wouldn't imagine. We would never imagine the little minute adversary like the COVID-19 could disrupt our lives. Well, that's part of nature. And so it's important for us to take back our planet and take back the human part of the planet and not let the machines take over. So in this, if that feels good to you and that's one of the reasons you want, then sit down. But I want you to make it about you in this part. In other words, why do I want to become part of this mission again? And what do I need to do to be successful this time? So if you're coachable and teachable, you work with your coach, you use the system, I think you'll find that the coaching guide will make it so much easier and a lot more effective at helping your clients move forward. And we're welcoming you back. Glad to have you back. All right. Okay. What do you say to people who try to compare Optavia to other weight loss programs? Well, I would say very, very clearly, we're not a weight loss program. We're an optimal health and well-being program. We focus, again, on the desired outcome. We're here, and the only question I ask people is, if you could choose optimal health, would you make that choice? And I'll be clear on that. I'm not saying, do you think you can do it? Because you don't have to believe. You don't have to, the first time you open up one of our feelings and eat it, you don't have to believe you're going to be successful. You really don't. You just have to open up the feeling and eat it. And if you do 5 of those a day, along with the lean and green, you'll start losing weight. And as you lose weight and start learning the habits of health, you'll start getting healthier. And as you start getting healthier, you'll feel better and you become more confident. Belief is something that I really don't understand why people think they have to believe to be successful. Do you believe, if you don't believe in gravity, just go jump off a building and you find out you were wrong. So I think it's really important. We're not a weight loss program. Can we effectively help you lose weight? Absolutely. We've been doing this. Our parent company, Medifast, has been around since 1980. We've helped, Lori and I, a few years ago, we were awarded, and I didn't start until 2000. We helped over 1 million people improve their, impact their lives. 1 million people. So basically, we know we've got a great track record. We do know how to help people lose weight and become healthier. But rather than focus on weight loss, going back to structural dynamics, because it's embedded in everything we do, rather than worrying about weight loss and getting to lose weight, because here's the deal. If you say, okay, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, and you start on any weight loss program, if you lose those 30 pounds, then what do? That's that oscillation I talked about, right? So basically, here you are, there's your goal, 30-pound weight loss, right? But what happens is if you're focused just on the weight loss, you get here, and then what do? You stop the restrictive period of time because you're on a diet, and what happens is you start getting your weight back, right? You might go out and celebrate, and go out and eat dinner, and boom, then it starts going the other way and you go back. You oscillate back to where you were before. We are an optimal health program. We address your physical, your mental, and your state of well-being. We are into all those things, and we use the components to put you in position that we have a comprehensive approach. The Habits Health Transformational System is 6 macro habits. It's not just what you eat. It's not just how you move. It's about your surroundings. It's about your mind. It's about basically stress reduction. It's about everything that encompasses you that helps you decide how successful you'll be. So there is no comparison. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay, what else we got? How do you become a leader by modeling a healthy lifestyle when your spouse is not on board with you? No blue lights before bedtime. I eat no blue lights. Well, and it's really interesting because I think that in general, women are much more intuitive and they get it faster than men do. Now, your spouse may be a female. I don't know that, but I would say if you look at our organization, you watch the incredible women leaders we have, women get it. I mean, I don't know if it's the maternal instinct, but they get it, and when they take command, they're successful. If you have a spouse that's not on it with you, Just give them time. Be neutral. And again, like the earlier question about someone sabotaging, it's really, really important that you ask them, if you really care about, if you really love me, and we have a co-committed relation, not a codependency, but a co-committed relationship, that please, I want to get healthy, I want to change my life, I would love to have you come do it with me. If you're not ready, that's okay, I understand, because nobody wants a nagging spouse, right? It doesn't work, because if someone's in opinion they're not ready, they're in pre-contemplation, they're not ready to go, you don't want to nag them and say, you got to do this. So what I would do in those cases is just sit down and have a talk in a non-emotional way, at a time when there is no conflict. It's not like, hey, I want to go to dinner, or hey, I want you to make this, or I want to eat this. It's not that time. It's not the time when there's emotions involved. But in a calm, collected state, after being well rested, nothing else going on, just sit down and have a heart-to-heart and just basically say, hey, I made a decision. I want to be healthy. I want to be healthier for you. I want to be healthier for myself. And I understand right now you're not ready, but can you please just be neutral and support? I would love to have you support me, and I'd love to have you come with me, but if you're not ready, that's okay, but please don't sabotage me. So I hope that helps you, and good luck with that. All right. How do you bust through a coaching plateau? Stuck at a certain level in the business, personal growth. Yeah, that's a great one. So, I want to talk about two fundamentals of our business. We have the coaching of our clients, and then we have becoming a business coach and coaching coaches. They're different. They're an evolutionary process for you as an individual. Coaching clients is one dynamic. It's working with someone, and it's a little bit because you're supportive of them, and you have the habits health transmissional system, and you have your coaching guide, and they're at that moment, they're just wanting to get healthier. So that's one dynamic. When you want to build a team and you start to bring people in, it's important for you to grow. And so I love it because you asked about personal growth. And so it really starts there. It's about sitting down and, again, what do you want? There was a question about not having a really strong why. We want people to basically understand what they want for their future. And that's why the very first element, element one, is all about be clear on why you're here. As a client, as a coach, as a business coach, and a business leader. And I always start there because, you're at a level where you're basically, you have skills, you're good at probably taking care of your clients, and you may have a couple coaches, I'm not sure of your exact situation, but it's not building, it's kind of stuck. And usually that's about our own growth. So we know this. Flexibility, a higher level of consciousness is critical. As we become more conscious and more flexible, we have a higher rate of success. And we start learning the skills. So there is an important part of personal growth. We're actually teaching our leaders right now three dynamics. Working on our self-leadership. Second is working on relational leadership, where we're learning to be able to understand what's going on someone else's planet. And then the third is moving forward and building organizational leadership, where we can build a team of leaders because we've now learned those skills. And that is a process. If you listen to our coaches that are most successful, many of them, as Dan Chard was saying yesterday, many of them started off as clients, and they just want to lose some weight. They just want to get healthier. And now they're top leaders. That process is one of slow increments, becoming a higher version of yourself. And the key part is, if you're stuck, is to really, first of all, work with your business coach, sit down, start to study, and learn about being open, curious, and want to grow. Learn, what's great about it, even in our habit health transmissional system, there's a whole section on relational health. Learning how to be healthier, working with other people, understanding people, not being judgmental, moving from a drama triangle to our empowerment triangle, where we're helping as a coach empower others. All those things are little baby lessons. And what I say to people, especially to our coaches that want to grow, work on the mental gym as much as you do on the physical gym, because the mental gym is what really runs. Our brain, our mind runs the show. So there's probably some hesitancy or maybe some things relationally that you need to work on. So make sure you get with your coach, go through the habit health system, and then start working on your relational health, because that's what will help move you on to the next level. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay. All right. I heard you speak once about the difference between pleasure and satisfaction regarding choices. Can you share the distinction again? It was so incredibly powerful. All right. Well, what I did was, I talked about it actually a little bit earlier, but I'll specifically talk about the difference. I talked about it with ice cream. So pleasure is mostly determined by dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter in our brain. And there's an area called the nucleus accumbens, which is a pleasure center. And when we do something that's pleasurable, it lights up that area of the brain. And it feels good. It's a feeling. It releases a little bit of serotonin, a little bit of dopamine, and so it feels good. And so with pleasure, pleasure is instantaneous. Doing something that while you're doing it brings you satisfaction. And the great example, just so I don't spend a lot of time on that part, on the pleasure part, is it's actually lighting up that area in your brain. So it feels good when you're doing it. But when you stop doing it, it basically goes away. So what happens is that's how addiction, if we look at normally the cue, the routine, and the reward, you get into an addictive loop. They actually studied rats. They studied primates, which was really cool. And the primates, they actually found that, if they did this cue, there was a cue, and they'd push a trigger, and then, or listen to a sound or a stimulus, and then they do something, and then they get rewarded by getting whatever it is. Actually, sugar is what they use a lot, and sugar is actually as powerful as cocaine in terms of a stimulant. And they would basically use sugar to reward them. So that would light up that area of the brain. And they get in that addictive loop. And that's what happens. We get into a routine, and I remember years ago, as a critical care physician, I'd get home sometimes at night and watch TV before I went on this journey. It was quite a while ago. I would sit with my wife, and we would have ice cream. It was kind of what we would do. And it was a routine. And actually, over time, I probably didn't even really enjoy it, because it was only when you were doing it. And the tendency there was then to go from little things to bigger things. Okay, so that's pleasure. It's gone when you're done with it. Satisfaction is intrinsic. It's the things that really matter. It's intrinsic motivation. So for an example, if you basically go out and run, and you feel good after it, and yet you know that by running you've improved your health, you feel good for a long term. You feel really great about it. So let me give you an example of how the habit cell system works with that. Satisfaction is something you do where you've made a choice. You've stopped, challenged, and chose something that moves you. Remember, lead from the future what you want for your health or your well-being, and then inform yourself today. So you say yes to the things that move you forward, and you say no to the things that don't move you forward. So obviously ice cream, if you want to be optimally healthy, is a no, and getting out and going for a walk is a yes. And when you go for the walk, that walk lasts beyond the time when you're actually doing the activity. So again, pleasure is only makes you feel good when you're doing the activity. Satisfaction works beyond that. And if you think about it, one of the things I've done in the habit cell transformational system is we all know that we need to eat healthier, we need to move and exercise more, but it's very hard for our brain to sense the future. So what I mean by that, they actually did studies with MRIs, and they looked at people, they asked them to think about themselves in the present, and it would light up an area of the brain. Then they'd say, okay, think about a stranger, and it would light up another area in the brain. Then they'd say, think about yourself in 5 years from now, and it was really interesting. People that were working on their health and actually were in that direction, it would light up their self. People that were not thinking about that, basically would light up the stranger. So there's understanding about the consequences of our actions today. So what I've done in the habit cell transformational system, I've given immediate consequences and added that one piece of the loop. So we look at things when you do them that create immediate consequences which are positive as well as long term. So let me give you 2 examples. So let's say for lunch you have a salad or you have a cheeseburger. At that moment, the difference in terms of your overall health with doing it one time is inconsequential, so we don't feel the difference. But if you actually thought about it and you look, if I have a salad for lunch and I'm going back to work or working as a coach, if I have a salad for lunch, how do I feel in the hour, and with a nice protein on it, shrimp or chicken or whatever you want, how do I feel after that versus when I have the cheeseburger? And I tell you, if you actually open up, become aware, you'll find, for most, that when you have the cheeseburger, you feel like ugh, and you're not as productive. So there's immediate consequences, right, of having the cheeseburger versus the salad. And the long-term consequences are obviously clearly important, that your health is going to be better if you've had the salad versus had the cheeseburger as your routine for your lunch. Okay, second thing. We have a tendency as coaches and as clients to think about our intentions, but when it really comes down to the moment, not necessarily doing it. So let's say you're a client and you decide, I'm going to start exercise, I'm going to start moving. So I'm going to get up in the morning, and this happens for all of us, it happens for me, is I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to go out for a 30-minute walk, okay? And I do that right before I go to bed, and I said, you know what? I'm going to set the alarm and I'm going to get up. The morning comes, so it's not even like a whole day, it's just like the 8 hours. The morning comes and your snooze alarm goes off, and by the way, that's the most disempowering thing you can do. I make it specifically when I have my alarm set. If I need an alarm, I try to wake up normally, but if my alarm set, I make it obnoxious and I turn it off and get up immediately as I grab my phone, get up immediately, and with that routine, I've created that stimulus. If you start using your snooze alarm, it becomes a habit, and then you're in trouble. So most people will hit the snooze alarm and say, you know what, I'll start doing that tomorrow, right? Their intention was good when they went to bed, but they get up and they're tired, so they say, I'll do it tomorrow. But at night, before you go to sleep, you call up your neighbor and say, hey, listen, let's get together in the morning and go for a walk for 30 minutes before we start our normal routine. When the alarm goes off, you are going to get up, because now there are immediate consequences that you're disappointing the person you were going to walk with. So that's what the whole human transformational technology is about, is using these things to help the brain start working to our advantage, to kind of create this pull to help us be more successful. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, we got about 5 minutes left, and what do you see as the biggest obstacle for getting Optavia out into the world? How would you overcome that? Wow, that's the million-dollar question. You know, I've been working on this for 20 years, and like I love when someone says, how does this compare to a weight loss program? Because 20 years ago when we started, there were some comparisons, right? There were some commonalities. But now, 20 years later, we are now been working on human transformational technology. Science, knowledge, and the resources and tools to help people change their health and change their well-being. We are fit for purpose. We are ready for this moment. So I am real excited. And by the way, the last couple days in this incredible studio, showing up, I was talking last night to some of our coaches. This is a showcase to the world that Optavia is fit for prime, and we plan it. I wasn't kidding around. I think we will become a huge human technology giant and spread around the world. And what the important part is to have the consistency of our culture, to build strong leadership, which I'm so confident now. You saw all the leaders that we have come out here and just perform magically. And I watched, since all of them, since I was the first one, I watched all these people come on, and I'm watching and develop. We have created the human transformational technology to help our clients become successful, to help our coaches become successful, and to build strong leadership. I am confident now with the state of our leadership and our leaders in Optavia, our coaches, and the state of our company. The company used to have 4 channels. The parent company used to have 4 channels. They have us, and there's that shared vision that we're working in partnership with our company to change the world. We have access. We're a New York Stock Exchange company, so we have the resources and access and the credibility. And one of the most powerful is Dan Chard was saying, we are one of the fastest growing wellness companies in the country and very shortly in the world. We've already started our international expansion. We're in Hong Kong and Singapore. And obviously we were all thrown a little sideways by the last 6 months by that little bitty adversary called the COVID-19. But what's interesting is during this period, it just seems natural that the world's been awakened. We know we need to change, and we spent 2 decades preparing to be able to give that technology to anybody. Now, it's really important that people raise their hand and they want to have responsibility. So we've got to work on that. We've got to work on getting out there, getting our showcase out to everyone in the world. But I'm confident now. It is incredible. And I've never felt more confident that we're going to become the leader in health in the world. And actually, one of my goals when I left critical care, is that, listen, if you get hit by a car or you need an open heart operation, we have an incredible, and I am very proud to be a physician, to be a healthcare provider. I mean, it's amazing. And pretty proud of what they've done, in a pretty tough time. And I'm sorry to get emotional, but I have friends that have got very sick that are out there on the front lines, so it's a tough time. But with that, my goal has always been to make traditional medicine alternate care, only for those that fail and aren't able to take control of their health and their life. So thank you. All right, we have time for one last question. Okay, how do you stay grateful with the amazing accomplishments so far of having such an enormous, bigger than all of us, and changing the world? Well, I think I pretty much said it. I do cry. I'm a big crybaby, because my heart is that as a physician and as a critical care physician, I see so many people suffer. And as I was saying yesterday, if you get sick from this virus, it's a very serious thing. And I know that we can change. You know, we can't make any guarantees of what happened or what won't happen, but I know that helping people, you know, in their mind be able to cope better, because, you know, one of the things that really bothers me, the silent killer here, the silent threat, is that our emotional state. And I talked last year about emotional mismanagement, and as I've gone over the last 20 years, gone from, you know, being a physician reacting to disease to first focusing on obesity, and realizing now that obesity is simply a symptom of a mind that's in stress and having, you know, stressful thoughts and loops, the cognitive emotive loops. I know now that the most important thing is to help people take control, so they can take the control back and start to learn to really explore their mind and how they think, what their feelings are and their emotions. And with that, I just feel right now we're at a place in time where we can change the planet for everyone. And we'd love for you guys to join us. And I have to tell you, this has been incredible. I want to thank this facility and the people here. They've helped us bring the message out so we can go help the world be healthier. Thank you.